everybody. This is Robert Smith, and welcome to another Zoom edition of ThinkBox Radio, the podcast that celebrates science and innovation. Today, we have a special show that is going to help you stay safe as this pandemic cools. People are venturing back into restaurants, getting haircuts, and planning picnics. How do you know where it's safe to go? There's an online tool that can help you find out. AlphaSatellite uses artificial intelligence to analyze data from a range of sources, then presents a coronavirus threat in a given area. Punch in an address and voila, there's your risk assessment. I use it to pick out grocery stores. I know people who use it every day to check on the relative safety of their kids in college or their parents who are living in other states. This satellite view of the pandemic has proven popular, as you might have guessed. Since April 20th, when the current edition went live, AlphaSatellite has been used by more than 50,000 people. Today, we're going to talk with the researchers who invented this tool and learn how we could all be using it and using it better. Fanny is a computer scientist and an associate professor in the Department of Computer and Data Sciences at the Case School of Engineering. Ken Loparo is a systems engineer and the Arthur L. Parker Professor at the Case School of Engineering. He's also the faculty director of ISACS, the Institute for Smart, Secure, and Connected Systems, of which Fanny is a member. Folks, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Bob.
Thank you, Bob.
All right, Ken, I'm going to start with you.
Sure.
What is AlphaSatellite, and what are you hoping it'll do for us?
So the original inspiration for AlphaSatellite came from Fanny, when Fanny was actually at the National Science Foundation as part of a review panel. And at that time, this was sort of late February, and things were, of course, heating up in China, in Wuhan, relative to what was happening with this sort of novel coronavirus that we now refer to as COVID-19, and realized that there was a real opportunity based on ideas and work that she had been doing in the area of using data in order to better understand behaviors and how things were actually transpiring. And so when she came back, we got together and talked about the importance of putting together a tool that would use heterogeneous, publicly available data so that we could stay away from any sort of privacy and security issues that would be associated with personalized or sort of data that is protected, and use that data in unique ways to assess how demographics, which would be population density, traffic density, public perception on the virus, all could be combined together in a unique way, using machine learning kind of algorithms and methods to come up with a relative community level risk assessment tool. The idea was, because the coronavirus is transmitted through, or its transmission is enhanced by close contact because of the fact that it is a respiratory virus and very often will be transmitted by droplets from one person to another, that in order to stop the spread of the virus or slow it down, social distancing became an important guideline. And whether it's 6 feet or 10 feet or 12 feet, it's not quite clear what the issues exactly are, but being in places where there are large numbers of individuals definitely will increase your risk, simply because of the probability of somebody in that group might have the virus or have had the virus. Maybe they're asymptomatic and don't even know that they have it, and that the probability for somebody coming in close contact, if the population density is higher, is going to be more significant. But go ahead.
No, so absent a vaccine, social distancing is our only weapon.
Yeah, social distancing.
I think
or
before
or
a drug
herd
or a
immunity.
vaccine become available, there's a more official term called community mitigation, will be the most readily and efficient way to have combat COVID-19.
Okay.
Right.
And so you guys have developed a tool that can help us do that. So Fanny, could you demonstrate to us how this works?
Sure. I'm
Let's,
going to share my screen and to demonstrate how it works. So first of all, we would like to support the strong we would like to acknowledge and appreciate the strong support from NSF. This project is funded by NSF RAPI program. And then with this
National
support,
Science Foundation.
right.
Yes.
Okay.
So you can see when people access our web applications through the website, either through the PC or mobile devices, you can immediately see the corresponding risk index in your current location associated with your
Now we,
county.
we should tell people who are listening in their cars or who are at the gym, she's gone to a website. It's the ASatellite website, and the address is covid19.yes.lab.org. If you Google AlphaSatellite COVID, it'll come up for you.
Thank you for the explanation, Bob. So now, when you click the list, I would like to further emphasize, per my knowledge, to best of knowledge, this is the only available tool that provided a dynamic and real-time COVID-19 risk assessment per the given POI, individual POI. So you can see for example, when you for the point of interest, Beechwood place, the more you can see the corresponding index here. And as Ken explained earlier, our original intention is if we would like to go to the grocery store as either during the quarantine stage or now every stage begin to reopen, and then we would like to go to the grocery store. There are so many choices.
We're looking at an interactive map, and Fanny punched in grocery store into the search box.
Yes, and then which one would be more risky, which one would be less risky for you to choose? Then this would be automatically provided the ranking list per the risk from low to high, and then you can take this information as reference to see which one would be an optimal choice for you. And as Ken mentioned, we also integrate the public perception using the social media data to integrate in our model to provide the estimation of the risk. For example, if this region people are less aware or don't take this virus that serious, then the risk will be relatively higher. And this is not only regional map, but also national map. So let's compare a lower and higher severe stage. So I Google, I search the grocery store nearby my area, and we can also see grocery store in Manhattan. And then let's see what's going on, and then the comparisons here. So just now, the grocery store near my area in Beechwood would be a 0.7 something. And then you can see in Manhattan, this grocery store is much higher than the nearby place.
It's almost a 10. It's a 0.9. So the higher number is a higher risk.
That's right.
That's correct.
And then you can see the corresponding risk indices in New York State and New York City compared with Ohio and Cuyahoga. It's much higher. And this is the most severe stage and city in the United States. And let's do one more comparison in West Virginia, which should be less severe than Cuyahoga or so here is West Virginia. Then you can see it's relatively lower.
Oh yeah, Morgantown. It's a college town. Maybe people are paying attention.
Yes, so you can see it's much lower than Beechwood or Cuyahoga County. You can see the risk percentile and also statewide and countywide.
There might not be as many people there as well.
Right.
What's that, Ken?
They're all normalized between 0 and 1 so that you can compare.
That's
okay.
Right.
So the way I use this is I look at a grocery store and then I compare it to other stores.
That's the right way to use it.
Okay.
Because they're all normalized within the scale 0 to 1. And one of the factors that you'll see when Fanny had that DiAgostino's grocery store in Manhattan on the list, you saw that the traffic density, there were 4 stars out of 5, meaning that there was a lot of people in that area. That's part of what increases the risk.
That's right. And then let me introduce, like actually the timeline of us to launch this system, we have 3 timelines. On April 1st, we launched the alpha test. And then April 20th, we launched the beta test. And May 4th, we launched this version, that's the official version for public use. And particularly in our latest version, we add like analysis for to facilitate like the decision making, not for individual, but for organizations, like to assist them to make like actionable strategy for the reopening. We not only provided like a risk assessment map. You can see different states, like what's the corresponding risk percentile, and also the disease-related data, confirmed cases, and then the death number, etc. But like we also provide like a reopening map, like the status of the reopening in each state. And then one of like our unique part is like we also integrate the traffic transmission data in the estimation of the risk index. So you can see this is the traffic transmission from other states to Ohio. And you can also see whatever point of interest, like for different states, like the transition to different stage. So here you can see like this is like the traffic transition, like the top 10 traffic from other states to, for example, Georgia. And we also integrate this information for the risk estimation because this would be the rationale behind. So the POI, the risk of this POI, not only correlated to your individual risk, but also other nearby state or like the traffic transmitted to your states. And then we also need to consider the neighborhood area.
This is where people are coming from.
Huh? Where this data coming from? This data is like a public accessible. This is provided by an LBS company called like Place IQ.
This isn't the virus moving. These are people moving.
That's correct.
Like, let me fully explain how this data means. Like this is estimated by the movement of the cell phone. So that means like sorry, the smartphone pin the current state. In the past, what is the share of these devices in the past 14 days? They also pin other states. So this is estimated by like the movement of the mobile devices.
But you're correct, Bob. This is movement of people.
Yeah.
And they're coming from states that have a certain risk associated with them for COVID-19, and hence you're not saying that these people are infected or not infected, but they're coming from a certain region that has a certain risk, and so a certain percentage of the total are moving from those areas, so that will influence the risk of a particular POI.
Fascinating. And obviously we don't want to see a big stream from New York City or Seattle, right? Or it's going to change your risk. Fanny, could you go back to that homepage again with the interactive map?
Sure. The dynamic map, right?
Right. Like this is where we'll all start, most of us, right? And you can punch in your address.
Yep.
Or you could punch in a subject like grocery store.
Yeah, right.
And start assessing the risk. So Ken, tell us, what are some of the ways people have been using AlphaSatellite that you hear?
Well, I mean, I think that everybody is concerned about the virus, certainly, but they're also concerned about making sure they maintain as much normalcy in their life as they can. And you need to get to the grocery store, you may need to get to the pharmacy, and there are certain things that you absolutely need to do in order that you can preserve your daily life. I think the other place where people are using it, so using it the way you used it, Bob, looking at grocery stores, comparing if I have choices to make, what choice should I make? And and to go to a grocery store or go to a pharmacy based on the community level risk that you can assess from the point of interest to the region around it, the county, to what's happening in the city or the state. I think it's really going to be most important, though, as we begin to reopen, because now we're releasing lockdown restrictions. We're opening barbershops, beauty salons. We're opening up restaurants. People need to make choices, and they need to decide, if I'm going to go to a restaurant, and these are my favorite restaurants, which one should I go to?
Yeah.
And so I think that people are using it simply to understand what is happening out in the community and how should they make a decision, a personal decision, based on the guidelines that were given from the local health department, that were given from the county, that were given from Governor DeWine's office, and from the data from AlphaSatellite.
Okay. Sure. Fanny, go back to, thanks for the demonstration. Let's go back to our smiling faces now. And I want to ask you about your sources. You're a data scientist. I know you look for sources of information. What are your main sources of information with this tool? What makes it work?
These data are collected from multiple sources, including disease-related data from official health organizations such as CDC, WHO, and also state and county level, government website, and also digital media. And the second source is demographic data, including the estimating population countywide and statewide, and also citywide, as well as the demographic density, age, and also gender distributions. This is the second element. The third element of the data source is social media data. So we collect the data from Reddit and Twitter to automatically.
Reddit and Twitter?
Yes, right.
Why? What does that tell you?
We are going to assess the public perception in terms of people, how they perceive the severity of COVID-19, how serious they are, how aware they are in terms of this.
Whether there's social distancing and wearing masks and all that?
We analyze the posts in Twitter and Reddit, and then we automatically assess their perception.
So, for example, Bob, if there's an area where people are unaware or don't believe that COVID-19 is actually a threat, probably not someplace you want to go, because the chances of them practicing social distancing or them wearing a mask is probably slim to none.
Okay.
And the fourth data source we use for this estimation is the mobility data, including the real-time traffic status, and also just now I showed you the transmission, the traffic transmission at county level and also state level. So basically, at this stage, we mainly leverage all this data for the model to learn the risk of any specific POI.
Okay, and obviously you had to rank this various data.
Yes.
And then you are using artificial intelligence to do what?
To devise the model to learn how can, because this number is not provided by human. We cannot provide the number. So we need to have an automatic tool to leverage all this multi-source data. So for artificial intelligence model, there's two goals. Actually, the goal are twofold. First, you need to have the integral model to aggregate all these multi-source data together. How can you devise a model that is capable to aggregate all this data in an elegant way? So this is the first part. How can you model the multi-source data? The second part is build on this model. How can you devise the algorithm? For example, leverage the graph neural network to aggregate the nearby information to give the estimation of individual POI.
Yeah, how do you do that? Someone had to create an algorithm that does all that for you elegantly, to use your word.
Oh, actually,
I love that. That's a data science word.
Because I and Ken have been working together for a while. since I joined case. And we devised this algorithm by working together with my graduate students in the lab.
Oh, I
So
forgot to mention.
right
I
now
forgot
we
to
have
mention,
like
folks, there's a team of graduate students doing a
Yeah.
lot of the heavy lifting. They're all these
yeah.
is.
We have like a very smart, intelligent students in our lab. Currently, there are 7 students in my lab participate in this project. 6 PhD students and 1 master student.
Okay.
So that this is definitely like a big investment for the project. I have to say.
Okay. Yes. No, you got to have them. Um,
And as Fanny pointed out, this data is very heterogeneous. It's very, very different. So it's not clear how the data should be compared or used in
Yeah.
a collaborative or coordinated way.
Yeah.
So the AI tools that are used provide ways of helping to facilitate that process.
and it helps you. You're constantly refining your assessment, right? How good do you think your assessment is?
That's a very good question. We just submit a journal paper which is under review, and then we also working on another conference paper. I and team work together and also lead our graduate student for these 2 works. So once we have the review result from the panel, then we can release our paper for how we estimate our system. Actually, we have a real world annotated data set, including thousands of the POIs per the user feedback. Because you can see in our system, we also enable users to provide us the feedback in terms of how they perceive the risk,
Oh,
and then compare with our own estimation. What do they think? And then based on thousands of the annotated POIs, then we systematically evaluate our system by comparisons with other state of the art.
Because
okay.
the challenge here, unlike in many other cases, there's really no ground truth
Right.
directly.
Right.
So you have to assess this in a more subjective or indirect way. What makes this pandemic, I think, very, very different than the one 100 or so years ago with the Spanish flu is that as that pandemic evolved, people were completely unaware of what was happening. It would never have been possible to do something like is being done now with AlphaSatellite back in 1918, because the full story and the full history of the 1918 flu epidemic was not known until well after the flu epidemic had ended. And one could retrospectively analyze all of that data. But here, you're actually building history as it goes.
Wow.
And because of the connectivity and the rich availability of data and the ability, as Fanny pointed out, to model and analyze and aggregate this data and then make reasonable or meaningful inferences
Yes.
using computational algorithms, we're able to do this as the pandemic is evolving and changing dynamically.
Yeah, I would like to add one more thing. We not only empirically evaluate the utility of AlphaSatellite, but we also objectively and also systematically evaluate our performance. But of course, as this situation change rapidly, this is very fast evolving. Then your evaluation indexes and also your benchmark will change accordingly. So this is one of the challenges of the technical part.
Was there a data source that turned out to work surprisingly well?
You mean for those data source which work surprisingly well?
Yes.
There's not only individual factor this will be dominant for other,
Okay.
but it's really a combination.
Okay.
And it's very difficult to tear some of those apart because a lot of the information contained in multiple data sources is redundant. There are some overlaps, and some of this data is positively correlated with each other or negatively correlated with each other. And hence, it's very, very difficult a priori to decide what that is and try to
Yeah.
tear it apart. And I think that's one of the really interesting things about using these AI and ML algorithms properly constrained and implemented to take advantage of those correlations and provide meaningful inferences.
Yes. Have you added any new sources or subtracted any based on user feedback?
Yeah, we did integrate users' feedback. For example, like for the analysis board, we did take the some of the feedback from the users, and we very appreciate like the feedback provided by our users, which appreciate our work, appreciate the ease of the use, and also the utility of like the risk estimation. And they also said like the feedback from the clinician and also the general users. They said like this is like a kind of very helpful for them in their daily life and also facilitate them to make the decision making for the decision making
Okay. Okay.
for the
Excellent.
reopening procedure and so on. Yeah.
Okay, so we're running short on time here, but I want to touch upon the second stage of your plan. So you guys just got a rapid response grant from the National Science Foundation of about $85,000. So you got some money to work with. What's the next plan here?
I mean, the AlphaSatellite platform, I think, is a illustration of what can be done by harnessing the power of data and effectively using this data for community benefit. And I think Fanny points out very accurately and very well that as we reopen, the hope is that the tool not only provides information or guidance to individuals, but maybe it could be used as it gains momentum and gains confidence. It could be used by officials, people that are looking at the tempo at which things reopen, what is the impact that reopening is having, and how might we better manage the spatial and temporal dynamics of reopening strategies in order to not unravel the great work that we've done, let's say in Ohio, over
That's
the
the
last
key.
3
You don't
months.
want to go backwards.
You don't want to go backwards. And so I think that right now it's a tool that is using historical data and current data to provide near real-time surveillance of the situation. Fanny and I have been talking a lot about how do we use this now as a scenario tool that is a more proactive tool, as a more predictive tool, to be able to look at if certain reopening strategies or scenarios change, how might they influence in a predictive way what the community level risk might be. So, a very wise person once told me that prediction is fiction. Okay. And so when one makes predictions or forward inferences, you have to be very, very careful. But as a scenario analysis tool and how you would use this in a forward proactive way, I think are the places where we can begin to look at extending the tool and maybe providing platform technologies that don't just help with COVID-19, but help with general problems of this class.
Wow. Well, that's great. Guys, congratulations on your success so far, and keep going. We need this. And it really does show the power of data science to help inform our decision making. And everybody else, hot list AlphaSatellite on your homepage. So folks, thank you. We hope you enjoyed this special edition of ThinkBox Radio. Stay safe, help your neighbors, and remember our motto here at Case Western Reserve University is think beyond the possible.